Wait, stop. That's the one. Welcome to ZEN TENN Speaks, a show where I make new friends and reconnect with old ones. A show where everyone's stories may inspire you to tell your own story. In this podcast, we encourage everyone to get rid of shame, guilt, fear, doubt, and judgments for themselves and for others, and replace those with love, empathy, compassion, understanding, kindness, and to do your best in everything that you do. In essence, to get rid of things that no longer serve your well being. To be true to yourself and be honest with others. No need to be politically correct. That's out the window with 2020. Here, we tell the raw, uncensored story, your story, and tell the truth as you see it. Make sure you live your fulfilled life without permission or apologies. So, if you have a juicy, interesting, raw, unapologetic story and inspiring, please make sure to contact me at zen1021@gmail.com. It is ZENTENN21@gmail.com. Or you can find me on most social media platforms. You know it. The IG, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, OnlyFans. I mean, not really. But yes, OnlyFans. Just kidding. Not. As you may guessed it, my name is Zen, and welcome to the show.
And it's okay now.
Yeah. And what's another thing that's okay, I've noticed on the groups, people often talk about how they ruin relationships. And I don't say, by the way, in those groups, I just post like about the podcast, or I'll say like congratulations, because I know like me, it's like I've learned to like keep my mouth shut about a lot of stuff unless I post on my own personal page, because somehow whatever I say, even if it's positive in my head, someone will take it wrongly. Because like some people, let's say if they relapse and then they are beating themselves down, I want to say, okay, now you know about it, and now tomorrow you can do better. Or if you're able today, you can do better. It's okay. You know, like that word is okay. It's kind of like, not that it's okay to do it, but it's okay to like fail and that's to get yourself back up, because that's life. And I want to say things like that, but I don't want to say it and then have someone thinking I'm saying it's okay to do it and all this stuff. So I was just like, not say anything, but I'm very curious. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to talk to many people and people like you to like ask those questions and for answering. So the question I have is, so a lot of people are mentioning what you mentioned, like they say they either got it because of trauma, childhood, or some people I've talked to, they believe it's in their genes. They just like, it's a thing. And so when I have tried those things, because I was like, okay, let me try smoking weed or cigarettes or try coke, whatever, or drink like the dark liquors. And when I was go through my whatever. And so none of these things were appealing to me. And so, because I've seen the commercials, they say it only takes that one time to do it and whatever, or sometimes you do that one. Because I did smoke, what's that? That cigarette that's like menthol. And I understand why menthol is very addictive. It was like eating candy, but it's not candy. It was that thing. But still, I was just like, I've experienced it. I don't want this in my life, whatever. Because I can see examples of people. And so are there people, I don't want to say I don't have trauma, but I don't have any mental troubles. And of course, I have trauma, especially the one I found out last year. but they're not running my life. It's not like I wake up every day and I'm like depressed or stressed about it and it's like running my life. It's just like something I've discovered, and I went through it for 10 months and like, okay, I can manage this or fix this, etc. So and so I'm not addicted to those things, or I guess they didn't have a hold on me because for some reason, maybe the reasons like people do it, like with the trauma or mental illness, or they have addiction in their genes. Like maybe I'm lucky I don't have one of those three things. And like, I don't know what it is, because I'm like, how can I taste something or did something and then it's just like, while others who did it and then they got hooked for years. So it's like, I'm sure there's probably some people who study those things, and I'm very curious about it.
Tons of research into that.
So I'm lucked out, I guess.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah.
So. If you dodge the bullet of addiction, you've got to step up in life for sure.
Yeah, and I have drank the alcohol, and the effect it does that I did like, though, it's like it makes me sleepy, and I'm like, oh, I could use this to go to sleep early. But then knowing what it does to people, and I'm like, no, I don't want to be doing that just so I can go sleep early. Then I'm gonna be depending on it, I'm like, no, I can just actually tire myself out, then I can actually go to sleep early. After a 12-hour day, there's no question about it. I'm gonna sleep early. Yeah. So I don't need alcohol.
When you first get sober and you see old guys like me, I'm what they call an old timer. I used to think old timers like really old guys, not my age, usually get 20, 25 years and you become an old timer in the programming. And at the big roundups we have in the conventions, you get to go to the special old timer meeting, that only old timers can speak at. And I always call it, you get to eat at the big kid table, These old timers, when I went in, well, I relapsed, I got 4 days. Well, don't drink. Don't be a dumb shit. Don't drink. It's easy. I got to remember too that what it was like when I was there, because I want to say to some of these people, there's a real easy answer here. Don't drink. And I have to remember that it's not that easy, but it is that simple, if that makes sense. There are very simple answers here. And you think you're an alcoholic and you just relapsed after being sober for 10 days. Well, what was the one thing you did? You drank. What's going to prevent that? Don't drink. And I always encourage people, go to an AA meeting.
Yeah.
Go to an AA meeting and then determine to go to the next one. And don't drink in between those two meetings. I do another one where I'll say, there's a pretty good chance, Zen, that I'm going to go to bed tonight sober. There's a pretty good chance. Even as I'm sitting on the edge of my bed, turning out the light and laying down, I will say, there's a pretty good chance I'm going to go to bed sober, because I don't take it for granted. It's always right there. It's always waiting. A relapse is always waiting for every one of us. And I don't take sobriety for granted. So right now it's 6 p.m. here. I say, there's a pretty good chance I'm going to make it home and go to bed tonight. So I encourage people to just, get to bed tonight sober. Worry about that. Another thing I see with people, I do not believe there's such a thing as a slip. Oh, I slipped and got drunk. You don't slip, you jump. Every person I've ever seen, including myself, I got my first AA coin twice, by the way. I've never seen a slip. I've seen a lot of jumps. You've put yourself in the position. You've put yourself in front of the triggers. You've gone to that place you shouldn't have gone to. They say, my dad would do this. He'd swear off the booze, and he'd get in trouble. And I'm not going to drink anymore. But he'd still go to the bar and drink 7-Up. Well, it's that big of a step to change that to a beer. You're still in the bar. You're in the same seat. You're smoking the same cigarette, smelling the same things with the same people. Stop going to those places.
How about the "I cannot help it" phrase?
When you're ready to turn your will and your life over to the care of God as you understand him, when you're ready to admit you are powerless over alcohol and your life has become unmanageable, that should not be a question. When you're ready to admit And it's pretty evident when your life's unmanageable. I don't have a job. I don't have any money. My wife's leaving me. That's unmanageable living. When you're ready to say that my life is unmanageable and I'm ready to turn my will and my life over to the care of God as I understand it, because I can't manage this. I've done my best and it's not working. So when they say things like that, I have to think, are you really ready to turn your will and your life over to the care of God as you understand him? Because we don't have many better tools than that. There just aren't a lot of good tools for addicts. Yeah, there's medication, there's antidepressants, there's all that stuff. But there aren't a lot of good tools for addicts. And the 12 steps are a tool that is proven to work for a lot of people. So if they're really truly in a position where they really want to quit, then they'll take certain steps, one of which is step 1. And anybody can do it, Zen, if I can do it, because I am a bad alcoholic of the worst kind. And if I can do it, anybody can. You have to understand surrender. And I'm not going to say I've always been great at the 12 steps. There's been times where I wasn't. There's been times the only thing that kept me sober was the habit of not drinking, if that makes sense to you. No, I don't drink. Nothing else in my life is spiritual or going very well, at that particular time. But then I'll go back to the program, be involved again, and get my spiritual house back in order. And that all falls into place behind. So I encourage people, to say, I just can't do it. Yes, you can. If I can, you can. It's simple. Don't complicate this. You're complicating it. It's simple. Don't drink or use. Go to a meeting. Go to bed tonight sober. Worry about tomorrow.
Right.
But that, for whatever reason, those are hard concepts at first. From my end of things, it's so simple. But in the beginning, it's really not.
Yeah. So very curious question. I keep hearing, and I love it. And as I mentioned, I grew up Jehovah's Witness, and I'm not against anything in life. And certainly I'm not against religion, although I'm not religious. And I'm just curious. I love learning. So one thing I've noticed, a lot of people who either had a religious background or maybe they did not, as soon as they're becoming sober, they all of a sudden either religious or believe in God or higher power. And it seems like, as you mentioned earlier on, it's like something to learn from the 12 steps, and more power to them. I love it. It's like, I feel like religion without all the crazy stuff in the background is awesome, because a lot of people need it. We need structure. We need it. Okay, without all the other crazy things that happen, wars or whatever. I love how technology used to get me mad. So now I'm like, breathe. So I'm like, oh, thank you, technology, for helping me work through my emotions. Because nothing I can do about it, just fix it, right?
No matter how frustrated you get, still has to be fixed. While you were doing that, I brought up a couple of items here from the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous that played into your last statement a little bit.
Okay, go ahead.
Higher power, spirituality. Give me just a second here.
Sure, yeah. Before you go into that, I want to kind of like make a entry statement, and then you can and then you can tell me what you found.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, so all right, so since I left religion, I'm all about spirituality and how I can do things. And of course, I believe in the universe. There's a higher power there, definitely. I won't deny that. But I also believe that I'm part of that higher power. We like intertwined. And I've noticed a lot of people and I think that comes with self-accountability and responsibility. A lot of people, tell me what you see as well. When good things happen in their lives, they say it's God. When bad things happen in their lives, they say it's the devil. Rarely anyone say, I did this. And so, but I've noticed the reverse when people went, let's say they went to AA and they gone to all that stuff, they take responsibility to the bad stuff they did. They said, I did this, I am an alcoholic, I am da da da. But then they gave all the stuff they overcame and the work they did to the higher power, to God. So it's interesting how it flips. And I'm like, interesting. So anything that happens in my life, I know I'm grateful that I wake up healthy and mentally sane to do things that I need to do. But I know I'm the one who went on the computer to look for things, to look for a job, for a gig, because I'm a freelancer. If I sleep all day, I won't eat. So yeah, I'm grateful that I wake up healthy, but at the same time, if I slept, it would be my responsibility. It wasn't like a God. So you feeling me? So I feel like and it's good. It's like whatever floats anyone's boat. Like you want to give glory to God, whatever. But I've noticed, that's why I call it responsibility thing. I've noticed a lot of people, they'll either blame the devil for the bad stuff and praise God for the good stuff. Then what's the purpose of this being then? It's like, are you doing anything? Like, are you just like a shell? Like, yeah. So that's what I'm curious about.
Yeah, it's that plays into that whole nebulous concept of I just had the term, then I forgot it. Free will.
Yes.
The term of free will, and I guess that is the gift of that God gave us in addition to his grace. When you talk about the spirituality as it applies to the program, as you can imagine, a lot of people, myself included, when we came clean and got sober and came into the program, we did not have a relationship with a higher power and resisted a relationship with a higher power. And that is so common, in fact, that the beginning of every AA meeting on the planet, every time we read a piece of literature called How It Works. It's straight out of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And at the end of it, one of the last paragraphs, well, maybe not quite the last, our description of the alcoholic, the chapter to the agnostic, and our personal adventures before and after make clear 3 pertinent ideas. They specifically wrote a chapter in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous called Chapter 4, We Agnostics, because we have to learn our own concept of the higher power. And some of us, when we go into it, I came into it, I grew up a Christian. I consider myself a Christian if there is a religion that I subscribe to, then that's what it would be. So I relied on that faith because that was my common understanding of a higher power. Some people don't have that. They have to get it somewhere else. Whether it's the power of the group, the collective, a lot of people, that is their higher power, the collective of AA. They say in the thing, if it has to be the coffee cup, pick the coffee cup. I think that's kind of chicken shit. You got to have something real, whether it's the collective of the group or your conception of God. But they wrote a whole chapter in 1939 called We Agnostics, just to address that. The absence of spiritualism and where does it begin? That's how the program kind of addresses that, Zen.
So basically I'm very happy that that's there because a lot of people obviously needs it. And I think my curiosity is, because for myself, I'm all about, I can do this, self-power, self-responsibility, and patting myself on the back. Oh, look what I did. I'm great that I overcame this. But I've noticed a lot of people, they're like, oh, it's thanks to God, everything, da da da. And it could be because I don't know. And I could go on a limb and say they don't know either, but they're just going off faith because that's what faith is, right? Yeah. And so I'm just curious about that because I've noticed the thing, like if you're not religious, if you're religious, you call, well, let's say if you didn't go through like an addiction, you blame the devil, but then once you went through addiction and then you're overcoming it, you take self-responsibility, of course, for the things you've done, but then you give glory to God. So something I've noticed is very interesting. And I'm glad that it's there and it exists and it's working for some people. So that's good.
That's the thing. And it's not the only road to recovery from disease or addiction. AA, the 12 steps are but one path. There are other organizations. When I was first sober, I saw one of the talk shows during the day had on different people representing recovery programs, arguing with each other and arguing with the crowd, whatever they do on those shows. And one of them was a guy had one called Rational Recovery, where it was solely dependent on personal responsibility. I don't know what their numbers are. I don't know where their chapter houses are. I don't know anything about them, but I know they exist and they have success. Another one they had that you might find is interesting, and I'll tell you my thought at the time. They had this lady on there, and this is 1995, 1996, called Moderation Management. And she was going to teach you how to drink in moderation. I'm watching her and I went, that crazy bitch is going to kill somebody. And guess what she did?
She killed somebody.
Family. That's how well moderation works for alcoholics. She killed the whole family, driving the wrong way down, and then she killed herself, which happens to alcoholics a lot. So that tells you too, there is no such thing as moderation with an alcoholic. You either don't drink or you drink. There is no middle ground. But there are other programs. I've seen people, a guy I went to rehab with, I ran into him probably 5 years later at a gas station. And he said, no, he relapsed until he found a good church, and he'd been sober for 2 or 3 years at that point. Now that did it for him. The 12 steps isn't the only way. The way that I've known that worked for me, is working for me. I'm far from it. So anyway.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, because, so when you going back, you were mentioning how when you drank, you had that feeling and you kept drinking because you wanted to get that feeling of, I don't remember what you said, like forgetting your troubles, whatever. So now you're not drinking or you didn't drink. How did you deal with basically killing that feeling that you had to drink? I don't think I'm missing. Did that make sense?
I know what you're trying to say. I told you I felt like I could breathe for the first time. Is the effect that alcohol had. I mean, it slowed my brain down. And one of the things they tell us when you take away alcohol from an alcoholic, you have someone, they call it a dry drunk. The book calls it restless, irritable, and discontent, which sums it up. Restless, irritable, and discontent. It is that you're improving your conscious contact with God as you understand him, living minute to minute, that can alleviate that pain. The collective of AA and the sharing of your experience, strength, and hope with other alcoholics takes that pain.
Okay.
Medical aspect of it. I take a mood stabilizer, I take an antidepressant, and a ton of vitamins every day, different supplements. That certainly helps with the restless, irritable, and discontent. And don't act like a bipolar crazy man most of the time. So the program was entirely meant to be, I hate to say the substitute because it shouldn't be. It's the treatment, not the replacement. So the treatment aspect of the 12 steps eliminates a lot of that restlessness, irritability, and discontent that we suffered from, that the alcohol took away.
So speaking of substitute, I've seen some people substitute, like my friend I was talking about earlier on who got the triggers. So he still smoked, not cigarette, but like those, I'm not a smoker, so I don't know what it is. It's kind of like, it has like a Indian on the package. It's like not cigarette, but like a different kind. So he says that one is not, although he's smoking all the time, he says not addiction. But but he said when you go to AA, people say you need to quit everything, period. And then people look down on him because he does it. And some people would also vape as substitute when they want to get away from cigarettes. So would that be a good thing to do, to substitute one bad craving or bad substance to a lesser craving substance? Would that make sense?
It does. Yeah, I see where you're going. There's a big black line between the two. It's not a gray area. I'll tell you why. One thing, when you talk about other lesser addictions like tobacco, the big book tells us when you quit drinking, keep a bowl of candy around because the sugar is a good substitute for alcohol. It helps alleviate some of the side effects of quitting drinking, and it keeps your mouth busy, etc. When you have, and I've heard a lot of people argue, well, they're still addicts because they smoke and they drink coffee and they're hooked on caffeine, and it's not a gray area. I can sit and I can drink as much coffee as you can set in front of me, and other than having to piss 15 times an hour, I'm not going to lose my job. My wife's not going to leave me. I'm not going to kill anybody in a car crash. Mm-hmm. And I could smoke cigarettes until I'm sick to my stomach and vomiting. It only hurts me. I'm not going to lose my job. It's not going to cause me to go home intoxicated and beat my wife. It's not going to. So yes, those are addictions, but they're not life-threatening, immediate life-threatening. Cigarettes will kill you. It's just a matter of time. Mm-hmm. But, with caffeine, coffee flows in gallons at meetings. They have people that just go to make the coffee, and a vice is vice, but some aren't as bad as others. I've never seen anybody lose their life because of caffeine. I've seen them lose it because of cocaine and pornography and gambling. Gambling will bring your family to their knees faster than anything else. You want to talk about absolute financial destruction very quickly? Yeah. I see a lot of families crash because of gambling. Those are all things, those kind of habits are life-threatening, Okay. I see by the gallon. Other than having to piss a lot, mm-hmm. It's not going to ruin my life, Right. Okay, that makes sense. It's not a gray area, it's black and white. Yeah.
So basically, so much you can do. Like, if someone want to go Thor and greatness, and they could be like cold turkey, no substitute, period, all power to them. But if you can substitute something, as you mentioned, non-life-threatening, why not?
Yes, and the whole thing is, Dr. Bob, one of the founders of AA, he was real big on take it easy. Take it easy. Everything needs to be moderated because as inherently compulsive people, I don't eat one donut, Zen. I eat 3. You know what I mean? I have to really be careful of my weight and my health. And as compulsive as I am, I have to stay away from sugar because I compulsively eat it.
Yeah. That was my addiction, and I had to kick it for 18 months. Yeah. It took that long.
And so with moderation, take it easy, I've seen people that they're on fire for the program. 3 meetings a day, every day. The flame that burns the brightest burns out the fastest. And I've never seen one of those guys make it a year. You know what I mean? They're substituting the program for their alcoholism. That's not a healthy thing to do. I've seen people get into church 3 services a day and 4 on Sunday, whatever, the brighter the flame, the faster the burnout. And I was going, in fact, it was my actual physical birthday. A friend of mine were going to a speaker meeting, certain type of meeting they do, just a speaker in. And I was heading to pick up my friend, and I was telling my wife about this guy. I go, boy, this guy's name's JC, and man, he was all on fire for the program. Just boo, boo, boo. I love it. And then he disappears. And I said, and he's one of those examples of guys that, the brighter they burn, the faster they burn out. So I pick up my friend Dave, and we go down to the speaker meeting. Who's standing at the front door? JC. He says, hey, do you remember me? I said, yeah, I was just talking about you not 5 minutes ago. And he says, oh, what were you saying? And I told him what I said. And he said, that's absolutely right. And I said, JC, easy does it.
Yeah.
One foot in front of the other. Easy does it. slow and alive rather than fast and dead. I apply that to driving. We drive a lot, long distances out here. We live in the middle of nowhere. Slow and alive.
Slow and alive.
No.
That's a wonderful advice. I love it. I'm going to even apply that to my life, because sometimes one of the guilt thing I do is I beat myself down for not doing enough. And when I tell my good friends that, they're like, you need to shut up, because I see you doing so many things and I can't keep up. How you say you're not doing enough? And I have this thing, and I don't like to say I cannot help it, but I use it for that time. I'm like, I cannot help it to not feel I'm not doing enough. I want to like do so much, and I need to remind myself. And I'm going to use that, slow and alive.
Slow and alive. It's like I said, we drive a long way. When I go to spend Christmas with my family, I will drive 206 miles, and to go to Walmart to buy cheap stuff is 90 miles from here. So we slow and alive, because lots of people die on highways, for alcohol, and so I always say that, and it's the same in the program. Easy does it, Dr. Bob would say, easy does it. Keep it simple.
Right.
Don't ever heard KISS it, KISS? Keep it simple, stupid. Keep it simple and sensible.
Yeah. Yeah, don't beat yourself up. Yeah, it's something every day I need to remind myself, definitely. So why were you compelled to tell your story today?
As I get farther and farther, every one of those landmarks in my sobriety that I mentioned when we first started talking, 1 day, 10 days, 30 days, 60 days, they all elicit different emotions and contemplations. And like, it wasn't until I was sober about 20 years that I really started looking at my first year of sobriety, looking back on it from being this far along, and the things looking back that were so hard at the time. And I describe it as, climbing up an ice wall, jagged ice, and you slip 2 feet for every foot you go, and they slice you open right down the middle, and there's nothing but a giant nerve that everybody pokes every time they walk by. You're so sensitive to everything. It was only in hindsight that I kind of started dissecting that part of sobriety, and how, in addition to the 12 steps, they have the 12 traditions and the 12 promises, and the promises tell us what will happen when you get sober. And when I was 20 years sober, I started reflecting on that first year or two, and I realized that from where I was at until I had a job as a teacher, a high school teacher, the marriage was fixed, had the baby came, another one on the way, had a brand new little pickup, a house with a mortgage. Because I did those things, 16 months, I got my life back. 16 months of working very hard at being sober. But it was in hindsight. It wasn't until I was about sober 20 years that I started looking back on that and contemplating it. So as sobriety goes on, and as I change and my sobriety changes, both for the good and the bad, as I become more mature in my sobriety, I reflect on the 12th step more and more. That is, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we carry the message to other alcoholics. And to practice these principles in all of our affairs. The 12th step is the most important step. As Bill W., the founder, would tell you, and Dr. Bob, the other founder, you can only do it by bringing the message to another alcoholic. That is the key, is the 12th step, is sharing it with others. And as I go on, and as I've developed in sobriety, I feel like I've learned a few things. I get a daily reprieve from alcohol. That's all we're not cured. We're not a recovered alcoholic. We're recovering. And I get a daily reprieve, but I've had, what did I tell you, almost 8,000 of those daily reprieves. So I've got some experience in how to stay sober. Mm-hmm. And I like, and I endeavor, and I seek out ways to share my experience, my strength, and my hope with other alcoholics that may be suffering, especially these guys who, I've got 2 days, say a prayer for me. I'm going to make it this time. And I say the prayer for them every time. And I hope they make it. And it's sharing my experience, strength, and hope is something. What gives me joy? You asked me. What gives me joy is sharing my experience, my strength, and my hope. Where I was at, what I did, and where I'm at today. That's what you share when you're an alcoholic. Where was I at? I told you where I was at. I told you what I did, and I told you where I'm at today. Briefly, that fills my cup. That is what makes me feel like an accomplished human, is sharing experience, strength, and hope, and appreciating others' experience, strength, and hope as they share it with me. Because the gift was given to me, Zen, and I give it on.
Right.
That's what the program is. And, I say there's other things I like. I mean, music brings me joy. I love playing music. I love working with kids. That's a whole nother story how I became a teacher, but it was kind of an accident. I love working with kids. And I taught at a university, and I built a business, and I went back to work with kids, because that is what, in the end of the day, matters to me. And so really that's what brings me joy, music, kids, and my ability to share my experience, strength, and hope with others that they might recover from alcoholism. And it is a good path for me right now.
Nice.
It's a very good path. And I speak whenever I can. When I see an opportunity like yours, and you're opening up this new channel, and you've got all this bright future ahead, and all these neat people that you're interviewing, and you're a neat guy. Obviously, I like you a lot.
Thank you.
I thought this is a guy I could talk to, and I think that where I met you on those groups, these might be people that see me tell you what I've been through, what my experiences were, what I was before, what I did, and what I am today. And maybe give them a little bit of hope. Right. I've already had people on the group get a hold of me, and in Messenger. I can only do so much over Messenger, but I'll tell them what I can.
Wow. Your story is amazing, especially 26 years of doing it. It definitely gives a lot of people who's new at it hope, and that they can also do it. And one message I see here, if you believe that you cannot do it, then God can do it for you. Then all the power to that belief, definitely. Because as I were talking about before, where people go to God and praise and all this stuff. So I totally support that, because some people feel they cannot help to feel that they're a failure. Because I've noticed that with my roommate too. Like, he was like, no matter how supportive I was toward him, or anything I could tell him, or send videos I could send him, it wasn't getting through him. So if God or religion is getting through you, and that's how you can change your life, then do it, and all the power to you. Definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We tell guys too, if you think you have control, go out and try some controlled drinking for a while. Come back and tell us how that's working out for you.
Yeah.
You want to find out how powerless you are? Go do that for a little while. Come back and tell me how it worked out. It's one avenue. I am powerless. There's one who has all power. That is God. May you find him now. That's in how it works.
Nice. I love it. That's great. And thank you again for being here. And thank you for, in the beginning, when I started the podcast, I started in October. I started posting in October, but I started in September 2nd. And because I didn't have any material, people were like skeptical. They were not trusting, and they were asking questions. And I'm like very open, and I told them what it was about. But I started it earlier on, having a podcast for myself, by myself, through the trauma that I discovered last year. And when I went through I could call it rock bottom, but compared to a lot of people I interviewed, it's nothing to that. Yeah. But so I went through that depression for 10 months, and I went through some stuff. And so I was doing the podcast for my own self, and basically like telling my shame, my guilt, and my judgment, and all this stuff. And people were watching, like, I want to tell my story too. And then since I enjoy the process and I'm not focused on the end goal, like some people on podcasts, their purpose is to make money, and to each their own. But my purpose was as therapy for me, and stopping the bullshit of shame.
Yeah.
Because I know we're all humans and we all have skeleton in our closet. And if I air out my laundry, that will help me mentally, because I was done going crazy. And it also could help somebody else. Obviously it did, because later on, of course I post out the post, but sometimes people just like, they'll watch my stuff. They say, hey, I want to be a guest. Like people, because they see me doing it and other brave people doing it as well. And I love that. And that's actually what I wanted to do myself, to be like, I want to do this for myself, because I want to show people there's nothing to be ashamed and fear and beating yourself up about. We're all humans and we're trying to do our best. And there were no guidebook for us, and we're just doing our best. So I'm not going to beat myself down anymore. And I'm glad other people like you have joined me to tell your story. So thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Pleasure sharing it. And I appreciate you. And if you want to talk again anytime, let me know.
Yes, certainly.
When I really tell my story, that you talk about lay it bare out there. Yeah, there's some grit to it. There's some really, really hard things to say.
Yeah.
Specifics that what led me to that point where I was ready to do anything. There's the fighting, the suicide attempts, all of those things, all played into my life, and that's a whole nother story. The rest of the story, but it's all there.
Yeah,
all trauma. So, and I didn't even get to touch on any of that stuff.
Yeah, we had. I love how I structure some questions, and I've learned in my life, because I have a extreme and perfectionist personality, and I had to learn to be in the middle. So I have questions, but as we're speaking, sometimes I don't even ask questions that I had, because like new questions arise.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, actually I asked you like only half of the questions that I wrote to you, because like other things came up, because everyone is different. Mm-hmm. Things that you say came up, and then I asked certain questions. And I had actually, they're not posted yet, because since I post every week, I have had people like guests come back because they had more to say.
Yeah, let's do a follow-up in a while. Let's follow up and do another one and get to the real, rip it naked some more, man.
Yeah, certainly.
A lot down there.
Certainly.
Want it naked and raw? I can go there.
Yeah. And it's like, as of last year, I was just like, 2020 canceled me as a person. I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna get it on out there, because I'm canceled. I can't work, and we are not locked down. So I gotta do what I gotta do and live, because hey, I could actually have a friend, his sister who's vaccinated died of COVID. So I was just like, you know what? One life to live. I'm gonna do this. I woke up one day, September 2nd, I was like, I'm just gonna do this. I'm done like holding back and all this stuff. So certainly, definitely. Yeah, so when you have a chance, make that list for me. And as I mentioned, there's still 10 days in this month. All I'm doing is interviews, like sometimes 5 a day. I book it up. So when you have a chance, make that list, and when we can talk again, and then the next month, next year, I'll do editing, etc. Certainly, I would love to have you back.
Very good.
Yeah, thank you.
Pleasure. I really enjoyed this.
Yes, certainly. Same for you. Thank you so much. All right, I'll talk to you next time.
All right.
Have a good one, Kelly. Thank you. Have a good one.